Ryan got struck in the face by the pulley as it snapped and he immediately blacked out, as well as ending up with a broken jaw and
A broken jaw and he got knocked out by a cable. Imagine getting knocked out by a cable. Oh my god. Hello everyone, my name is Zurionics and today we'll be reacting to the Nutty Putty cave incident by Tove. Now, I've heard about this incident. I've seen it all over TikTok and even Instagram reels, but I don't know I don't know the depth of this incident. I don't know the details of why this cave diver tragically died being upside down for what, 28 hours? I don't know. Our great friend here, Tove, will be covering some great details about, well, not great details, I sound like a fucking psychopath, but he'll be covering the details about this tragic incident. So let's dive right in. Okay, VHS tape. Ooh, so nostalgic. Okay, so I assume this is the Nutty Putty cave. Oh my god, it's like a mini sinkhole. Who would even go down here? I really want to know who would just go down there and just... Yeah. I'm looking for nothing, but I'm just gonna explore the cave. This literally looks like Minecraft. Just going down there and get some iron.
That's the hole I just came through.
Nah!
Right. Okay, here we go.
That is somewhere I don't want to be in, bro. That is some place I do not want to be in. The Nutty Putty cave incident.
Now, this story is a rather well-known incident from Utah's Nutty Putty cave where in
This is fucking horrifying. Holy shit. I feel like God designed this trap for someone to get killed. Like, look at this. What the hell?
2009, 26-year-old John Edward Jones, while exploring the cave with family and friends,
He was
with
only
just sheer
26.
bad luck, took a wrong turn, went down an unmapped section, and got stuck. He got wedged upside down inside a narrow crevice, and sadly,
Yikes.
with no way to safely pull him out, he died there. This was actually despite great effort from a team of 137 volunteers who spent roughly 27 hours desperately trying everything that they thought could work.
Shout out to the volunteers that tried helping him, because I assume that space was so tight, it must have been so hard to get him out, but I want to know how he died.
Now, although this video will focus on John's case, specifically how his body would have responded in those final 27 hours of his life, it's worth mentioning that he wasn't the only tragic case in that cave. However, it was the only case where a life ended. Back in 1999, for example, two teenagers, Chris Hale and Chris Merrow, both age 17.
Oh my god, so he wasn't the only victim. There were other kids that got stuck in this cave. Was it this cave? I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention. Let's go back real quick.
Two teenagers, Chris Hale and Chris Merrow, both age 17, both got stuck in a narrow section known as the birth canal.
Okay, so they did get stuck in this cave. The birth canal. What the hell? Sounds like something from my anus. I'm joking. Whoa, relax. I'm just joking, okay? So two teenagers in 1997 got stuck in this birth canal cave, like this section of the cave, okay?
40 volunteers, close to 12 hours to get them out. Then, 5 years later in 2004, 16-year-old Brock Clark got stuck, folded, was upside down, in a section right after what's known as—
Dude, look at this map layout. Holy shit. This literally looks like the Minecraft generated cave system. Like, look at how it's designed. Like, you see this one right here, and this one right here, and this one right here. Do you guys know in Minecraft where you dig a section where there's just like a really weird cave structure that has just water and probably axolite? It's just there, you know? It's just an empty space. There's no connected routes or anything. It's just a big circle with just water in it, if that makes sense. But yeah, this cave layout looks terrible. If I saw this before entering the cave, I'll be like, fuck no, I'm not entering this cave.
Screw, because it was too small for his 5'7", 140-pound body to turn around. It took 14 hours to get him out. Looking at these three cases
14
combined,
hours.
although we are yet to dive into John's case, it's arguable that they point to a clearly dangerous cave where a lot could and has gone wrong. So before anything else, and to give perspective on just how dire everything was, it makes sense to go over Nutty Putty Cave first. The Nutty Putty Cave is found just west of Utah Lake. 55 miles outside of Salt Lake City, and it's what you'd call a hypogenic cave. That simply means it was formed as superheated water from below the Earth's surface, and it got pushed into the limestone rock above it, and the minerals in the water ate away at the rock. This then usually creates shafts running underneath the ground in no particular pattern, and these aren't your regular straightforward shafts.
That's interesting.
According to experts such as Matt Paulson, who was the head of the National Speleological Society at one point, hypogenic caves tend to have lots of these complex features such as domes and three-dimensional passages all over the place. That's actually something very characteristic of Nutty Putty, and probably among the most important components explaining why people loved exploring it so much, and also sadly why
are you so close to me, brother?
The overall length of these shafts have been estimated
He's so
to be
close to my face.
1,400 feet, with all sitting at different depths from the surface. The deepest point is thought to be about 145 feet. Now, one defining feature of the Nutty Putty cave is that once in, one could go a lot of different ways. This is just because of how it was naturally formed. However, to keep it general, from the entrance, one could either go right and explore the big slide, the birth canal, the aorta crawl, and the vein alley.
Wait, this is the entrance? I thought the top was the entrance.
Or go left and explore the maze, the big room,
so left or right?
Crack. There was no guarantee of succeeding in either.
I'll be honest, I'll probably go to the one on the left. Just because this is a bit bigger
direction, though.
It doesn't look too bad,
but varying degrees of shaft shapes, dimensions,
I wouldn't go in the cave in the first place.
Sometimes it even came down to a person's body, their size and height, in regard to the ability to navigate certain passages. And
so you basically have to be skinny.
Like the birth canal, the aorta crawl, the scout eater, and the maze even had warnings to cavers on the extremely difficult conditions ahead.
Bro, it literally says dangerous cave. Be equipped. Proceed with caution. If I saw that sign, hell no, I'm not entering this cave.
Also, while the temperatures were about 55 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year, which is close to the normal average surface temperatures in the US, some areas, such as where John got stuck, struggled to offer enough fresh, breathable air. And other than these conditions, the only other less than
they're basically breathing dirt. Like, just dirt, dust, soil, anything. Like, his face is literally against a wall. That's crazy, man.
Ideal nature of the cave is the vicious clay oozing from the wall and the generally wet surface that can make things quite slippery. In fact, right before getting stuck, John slid down an unexplored area of a shaft and had no way to get back up.
Like I said, this design, like, God made this to get someone killed, to get someone trapped and die down there. Like, what the is there like no extra, you know, routes to another cave system? You know, like, why is it like this?
Before we end the summary, an interesting portion of this would be the name Nutty Putty. How did it get its name?
Nutty Putty. Oh, nut on you.
Can you shut the fuck?
It was coined by Dale Green, who discovered the cave in 1960, and it was adapted to the name Silly Putty. That's the silicone toy that can flow like a liquid while also
what is
being
that?
able to bounce,
Chicken
stretch,
breast?
and break. Green thought that the
clay
inside the cave behaved like that of Silly Putty, but said it didn't have a good ring to it, so then just changed the name to Nutty Putty.
Nutty
Before
Putty.
we break down John's death by the hour,
Nutty Putty.
The summary of the story was that he was with a group. It was him, his brother Josh, which were both experienced cavers, and 9 other friends and relatives, all with sort of varying experiences in caving. The group split into 2. Children
That's
and less
so...
experienced.
I feel so bad for the family. I just can't imagine years later this will still haunt them. Like, people making videos,
myself included.
But yeah, people just make videos about this incident that happened so many years ago. I think this happened in 2009, right? If I recall. If I was the wife, if I was the brother, yeah, I would be destroyed inside. Just seeing that person being upside down for how long until he died?
Adults went off to the easier sections, while the rest proceeded to the more difficult sections. In the first hour or so, John and his brother Josh explored a large section called the Big Slide, and then, looking for more adventure, John suggested they try.
Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Like, it's not too bad. I mean, you have a lot of room, right? You can fit 2 people between these walls, this shaft, whatever you call it.
The birth canal, which was known to be much more difficult to navigate. The thing is, though, the opening that they went into thinking it was part of the birth canal was not. They mistakenly ventured into an unmapped section of the cave. John had gone first into the tiny hole, and as he squeezed through, his hope, still thinking he was in the birth canal, was that it would open up into a large cavern. So, although it was difficult to navigate, he just pushed on.
Still don't know why people do cave exploration or cave diving or whatever. Don't know why. I really don't understand, man.
For the first 15 feet, they pushed through a tiny tunnel, and then further through 10 feet of the same tunnel.
Does this not look scary to you? Like, look, he's using his whole body to push himself forward. How would he go back? Would he, like, push, like, push the ground, like the shaft, away so he can reverse, like go backwards? Like, what's going on, dude? This does not look fun. Why would anybody enjoy this?
Tunnel, but with more rock outcroppings and challenging squeezes and turns. Soon enough, John got to an area known as the corkscrew.
That also looks painful. Like, I can't imagine the bruise and these cuts and everything, because you're literally scraping yourself to get through this shaft or canal.
A section where only a few cavers had ever been to, and that would take not only great skill, but also the right body type to navigate. Now, you have to remember that John was an experienced caver. He'd gone on cave...
Wait, what? Inexperience or experience?
John was an experienced caver. He'd gone on cave...
Wait, what? Oh, he's an experienced caver. Okay, so this wasn't his first cave.
...explorations in Utah with his brother a lot when they were younger.
This was his last cave.
Life. He'd gotten married to Emily, had a child,
sorry,
had
man.
a second child on the way, and was a medical student at the University of Virginia. He'd only just decided on this specific exploration as a way to bond with his family during the Thanksgiving break.
He had such a successful life
caver,
too.
He managed to squeeze himself through the corkscrew section, after which he got to a section that went up for about 5 feet. Now, apparently, that incline that was about 5 feet is where previous cavers would make it to and then turn back around.
I don't even know what's happening in that layout, the Ed push.
Before had gotten stuck back in 2004 before getting rescued. Back to John though. What you have to keep in mind is that he expected the shafts to lead to a bigger area ahead, and so he never stopped. And turning back wasn't really an option because he was 6 feet tall and weighed 200 pounds. He was much bigger in size compared to the 5'7", 140-pound 16-year-old Brock Clark, who again had been stuck at the same spot 5 years back. For context, the space was just 12 inches high. Definitely not enough to reposition yourself. So knowing this, John went past the incline and got to a bit where there was a sharp bend to the left and a deep slope. He pressed further on, being almost vertical now, thinking he was seeing an opening up ahead. Soon enough, he realized he was wrong and things were getting dangerous, and he yelled out for his brother Josh not to follow him. He then went on yet some more, hoping to get space to turn, but he ended up getting stuck upside down at a 70-degree angle to be exact. This was in a really tight
They even
hole,
got the angle. Oh my god, the accuracy.
Inches. How exactly he got to the hole is still quite a mystery, but it's believed that
it's questionable.
That there was
don't know how he ended up there.
Sadly, it was a dead end. What followed then was 27 hours of an attempted rescue. In this video, we're really going to try to focus on when John was feeling. So not only is this entire video about the case, but we're also going to be talking about what traumas the human body goes through when you're upside down stuck in a cave for 27 hours.
Interesting. The human body.
Let's get into that. Hours 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Adrenaline rush and dive. One fact that we can't possibly ignore is the rush of adrenaline in that first hour in the crevice. How this works is
I
that
guess
when
like
faced with
panicking.
extreme danger, the human body naturally releases adrenaline in preparation for either fight or flight. This would suggest that John must have had this sudden rush of energy where his heart rate went up and his blood pressure surged. The boost in strength would, however, have been temporary because the body cannot sustain it. In fact, what happens is that the adrenaline rush pushes the cardiovascular system to its limits for about 20 to 30 minutes, after which everything settles back down. So the rush is a good thing as it helps people get out of danger, but then it also results in an energy dive, leaving the person weaker than before. It's likely that John in the first hour results in back down. So the rush is a good thing as it helps people get out of danger, but then it also results in an energy dive, leaving the person weaker than before.
That sucks. Yeah, it's like you use so much energy. That sounds like a video game. Like you use all this power. The moment you use all the power, you're like, oh, I feel so weak and tired. I just don't have the power anymore.
It's likely that John in the first hour might have had this experience. A rush of energy so strong that it might have even led him to inch himself a bit from the crevice, but then a sudden tiredness after about 30 minutes. It probably also goes without saying that at the point of getting stuck, John was already tired. Remember, they had explored the area for about an hour.
He falls back into the cave.
Into the ill-fated shaft. It's also unclear how long they were in the 135-foot shaft, but still, all the twisting, turning, and pulling might have taken quite a bit of energy. Then, towards the area where he got stuck, he had mostly been on a steep decline, which probably means that his arms were tired of holding up his entire body weight. Then, even worse, he had spent some time trying to wedge himself out once he had hit the bottom. Considering one of his arms was trapped under his chest and the other trapped on a rock by his side, this must have taken a lot of energy. In addition,
dude, I just realized I already know he died, but I forgot they buried his body with the cave. Oh my god.
To all of that, he must have also lost some more energy when Josh was trying to pull him up.
I just realized
Josh had actually gone out of the corkscrew section, turned around, and then came back towards John feet first. He had tried to pull John out using his feet, but this ended up with both of them tired and frustrated. The point
Yeah, how would you even pull him out? Like, look at this section. This is impossible. If there wasn't like a roof, like a top, and like there was like just open space, like this whole top is just open space, they can literally just grab his feet and just yank him out easy. But since this is so narrow, like it's so tight, like it's so bad, like you can't even. This is just guaranteed death. I'm so sorry to say that, but bro, like, how would you even get out here? You would have to break his legs and pull him out. Ugh.
though is that both would have been tired at this point. This is also probably the right time to bring up the effect of what hanging upside down does to the human body. According to science, the human body apparently is only supposed to be upside down for less than 1 minute at a time, and between these moments of being inverted, one needs to take at least a 1.5 minute break. The reason for this is that when inverted, some organs create unnatural pressure on others, causing complications on the normal body processes. The intestines, stomach, and liver, unable to move naturally, would for instance be pushing against the diaphragm and lungs, which would limit their movement. Then, in particular, 3 things would happen. First, there would be an increase in blood pressure. 2, the heart rate would eventually slow down. And 3, the heart would eventually fail completely. And in some extreme cases, blood accumulates in the head in the event of a brain hemorrhage, which then definitely leads to death. There's also increased pressure on the eyes, causing temporary vision problems. It's all horrific to say the
Basically
least.
blindness.
That's, however, not to say that people haven't been upside down for longer than a minute. It's said that with
I
practice,
assume
one
his
can
eyes
safely
will be
do up to
red
20
too,
minutes
huh?
at a time. Going back to John, though, he most likely would have begun feeling the effects of being upside down immediately, and these effects must have gotten worse by the hour. I mean, if a minute is considered the safe limit, imagine what an hour would feel like. That said though, and dwelling a bit on the psychological effects of being upside down, John's heart must have been through one hell of a ride, especially for the time he was conscious and trying hard to survive. As put by physician Doug Murdoch, who was involved in the rescue, the heart would have had to constantly pump blood out of the brain. That's presumably to
God.
protect the body from brain hemorrhage. Murdoch also said that when he learned of the incident, he headed to the scene knowing John didn't have much time. He knew that blood and fluids would soon accumulate in John's brain and build up toxins, and once these got to his heart, they would kill him. His estimate was that John had about 10 hours max. In this particular context, what I find terrifying is that his heart might have experienced a strain of adrenaline rush once he got stuck and then soon after, without preparation, and switched to survival mode where, as described by an article, it was pumping at twice the normal rate to counter the effects of gravity. It would also have had to do so for many hours, keeping him in a state of hyperarousal. Now, to give more context to the matter of time, when Josh, John's brother, failed to pull him up, he had made a small prayer over him and then crawled back out to seek help. Reports indicated that Josh and the team had entered the cave at 8 p.m. and that by the time Josh got outside the cave and made the distress call, it was about 9 p.m. And then by the time Susie Mottola, one of the first rescuers, went into the cave and got to John, it was around 12:30 in the morning. This means it was an hour or so.
Whoa, wait, what? 9 p.m.?
Went into the cave and got to John, it was around
12:30 a.m.? So 3 hours and 30 minutes?
30 in the morning. This means it was an hour or so after being in the cave that John got stuck in nearly 4 hours.
To be
before
honest,
the first
3 hours
rescuer,
is pretty
Susie, got to
fast,
him.
but still.
Going back to his experience, one important thing to note is that when Josh had tried pulling John up, John only rose a few inches, but then went right back down and maybe even
And probably
slid deeper
deeper,
into the
yeah.
crevice. That's just how gravity works. Stuck headfirst in that dark area, which Josh described as John looking like he'd been swallowed by the rock, the next problem his body would have been facing is air. Being stuck in a cave 400 feet from the entrance is itself an issue when it comes to fresh air, but then when you slow down the lungs' capacity to draw in enough air, things get way worse. That must have been what was going on with John at that point, because remember, the human body was not designed to function properly in the position he was in. His lungs, for example, would not have only been under great pressure from other organs, but also the pressure would have felt like it was increasing by the hour as the lungs grew weaker. In fact, when Susie was in there with John, she said that through the 2 hours she had been trying to pull him out, his voice had moved from being normal to becoming more nasal as he seemed to struggle to breathe. This was taken to suggest that liquid was slowly starting to get into his lungs. As if that wouldn't have been painful enough to bear, his blood would have also experienced a buildup of carbon dioxide, which is what happens when there's insufficient ventilation. This actually leads to a thing called air hunger, which is sort of the primal panic that
Air
sets in
hunger?
when the body feels like it can't let in air properly. The brain just begins
I mean,
sending
he's
out
stuck
distress signals
upside
that would
down
also be
and
associated with feelings of
It's a
anxiety
dead
and
end as
fear.
well, so. Damn.
Hours 6 to 19. Now, because
6
we know
to
by the time
19.
Susie and a lot of others in the rescue crew arrived, John had been down there for hours. He must have also experienced yet another different issue: hunger. He must have either began feeling hungry or just completely famished. As a general rule of thumb, based on science, The human body takes about 2 hours after a meal before it begins showing signs of hunger. The thinking here is that if John and the rest of the crew had eaten something right before going to the cave, it would have been well over 6 hours since he last had a proper meal. It is thus definite that his body would have begun asking for more energy, aka food. More justification for this is the consideration that in hours of being in the cave exploring, he spent a lot of energy walking around in the big slide, squeezing and crawling around the shafts. The same also goes for when he would have began trying to get himself unstuck. This energy used up must have contributed to, well, the need for more energy. And not only that, but also the general stress of being stuck would have potentially made him want to eat something. I mean, it's generally a well-known fact that stress can cause eating problems. So yes, it would have led him to the desire to eat sooner than would have been required. Specifically, going back to
fried chicken!
Bit, when stressed, the body releases this hormone called cortisol. It causes one to crave meals higher in sugar and fat. The hormone is supposed to help the body control itself during stressful events in terms of blood pressure, the immune system balance, and anti-inflammation. It turns out that it also leads to the desire to eat more. And, just as an emphasis, it goes without saying that whatever John was facing was a stressful situation. He was stuck at a 70-degree angle in a rock crevice
so it's just
400
stress.
feet from the cave's entrance with no natural light and struggling to breathe properly. And to clarify, the hunger could have set in at any point after the initial 2 hours of being in the crevice, but with so much going on, the body might have not rung the hunger bell as a priority. I'm speculating just a tiny bit here though. Moving on, when Susie left the cave after 2 hours of failed attempts and getting John out, the rest of the crew had already strategized on something they thought could work. They created this elaborate system of pulleys that was supposed to help the team on the ground pull on
that's
one
smart.
end, while the other was attached to John's feet. This would definitely move his 200-pound body up, so they set up the rope in the shaft and installed climbing cams all over to guide it over pulleys. This of course was no easy task because first, the shaft was so small and only accommodated one person at a time. Second, the distance between the entrance and where John was quite far, which meant that it took about an hour for anything to be brought in or taken out. Anything here includes the drilling equipment that they had tried using to free up space for John. Actually, a big problem they faced was that the cave was too small to accommodate proper drilling equipment, and even worse, the smaller equipment wasn't really getting the job done. For instance, in preparation for transporting John out the cave, they had tried drilling out some rocks at the corkscrew section, but then after an hour and a half, they had only drilled just 6 inches of rock. And there's also the fact that the cave's roof was mostly made of a material called calcite. This meant it was difficult to anchor the rope using cams as the anchored pulleys just kept coming off at the slightest tug. Now the reason I'm telling you guys all of this is to give you guys perspective.
This
on
cave
the
is a
rescuers.
troll.
Around 2:30 in the morning, Susie left the cave and in went Ryan. Ryan was another crew member who was tasked with saving John. However, that doesn't mean John was alone while they were exchanging crew members. He was being checked in on. According to Ryan, when he asked John, "Why are you on your head?" John's response was, "Why did you guys put me here?" That response was a sign to Ryan that John was losing touch with reality. This is nothing that wouldn't be expected out of the human body given the situation. Actually, the cognitive decline could have begun a bit earlier when fresh air became a problem over
I'll be
prolonged
pissed
hours.
off as well.
This is because when denied oxygen, the brain doesn't really function at full capacity, and then this leads to confusion, difficulty focusing, and slower thinking. This is maybe what John was experiencing on and off and what Ryan was witnessing. The medical term for such a situation would be brain hypoxia, which is exactly what I have described. The brain running with less oxygen than needed and sort of shutting down some functions. One of the effects in such a case, besides confusion and the others, would have been the inability to remain calm. This is given the already compounding stress and an anxiety that would have already set in earlier. It's more like one unbearable issue would have been setting the ground for the next one, a clearly horrific experience. Now, I said that confusion, in a mild form, might have set in earlier, but then since John wasn't really aware of what was real or not, at least according to Ryan, the situation after those 12 hours of being stuck would probably be best described as delirium. That's to say, there's a chance that what Ryan witnessed was delirium in its full form. And to describe it, this is when extreme confusion and disorientation are experienced in ways that could be associated with emotional swings ranging from fear and anger all the way to extreme sadness. As Ryan explained, when having a conversation, John would oscillate between a calm, coherent conversation and helplessly thrashing his legs out of sheer panic. Anyway, to help out with the situation, John was given Gatorade by the rescue team, which apparently works well in replacing lost energy and more critically, maintain.
How does he even drink it? His head is literally at the bottom. Like, I assume they use like a fucking pipe or straw to feed him or something.
Maintains the body's ionic balance, which is needed for proper functioning of the brain, nerves, and muscle. And I'm assuming they use some type of straw. So it's only safe to assume that when John was able to get some of that drink, his body felt a bit more of relief. Also, his only escape, based on the reports, was him having conversations about his faith and family friendly with the rescuers. Ryan said that when John would go into a panic state, asking him about his young family, about Emily, his wife, his 1-year-old daughter Virginia, and the unborn child, it seemed to bring him back from the dark abyss. He was also given a chance to speak with Emily at one point via a telecom, which must have helped lift his spirits. By this point, he had been there for 19 hours.
19 hours. Yikes.
Hours 19 to 27. So, by the time the pulley system was locked in place and ready to go, it was 19 hours of rescue. But nothing about the
19
situation
hours?
was about to be easy. We just talked about how
Okay.
the cams kept coming off the cave's roof, but then in addition to that, John's height was a problem. This is in the sense that the direction he faced meant his feet would not come straight up and bend in the right direction due to
Yeah.
minimal space. In other words, his legs would need to bend backwards. There was actually
Oh.
talks of breaking his knees in order to get him out. And of course,
That's the
there was
only
also
way.
the fact that he was already in immense pain. He had
Yeah.
told one of the rescuers, "My legs are killing me," in response to being asked how he was doing. Still, facing all that, they had to proceed. He was hoisted by the pulley with 8 guys pulling and Ryan monitoring. They did well, and he actually rose high enough for his feet to touch the rock above the crevice. They had to stop though as he screamed from pain. It was simply too much. He'd also been crying at this point as his eyes were described as being red. Now,
Yeah,
right
his
after
eyes
this,
are becoming
they resumed
red.
pulling, and this is when things went completely wrong. As the rope was being pulled, after about 20 minutes of rest, it snapped the cam right off the top of the crevice, and both Ryan and John suffered significant injuries. Ryan got struck in the face by the pulley as it snapped, and he immediately blacked out, as well as ending up with a broken jaw and
A broken jaw and he got knocked out by a cable. Imagine getting knocked out by a cable. Oh my god.
swollen eyes. John, on the other hand, slid right
that probably
back into
hurts
the
so
crevice,
badly.
landing on his head. He apparently didn't seem worse than he had been.
That
though.
hurts so
That is,
badly,
however,
huh?
not to say he was okay. He must have been in immense pain and experiencing a lot of stress, both emotionally and physically. In fact, this must have been the time when his organs would have began shutting down. Ryan's
Yeah.
father, who was also a cave expert, Dave Schertz, had crawled in after Ryan came out and said that although John initially asked about Ryan's injuries, he had become unresponsive right after. Dave had confirmed the presence of a heartbeat,
Yeah.
but that was it. Nothing else. Now, one of the reasons I've just covered this
I can't imagine like being stuck in the cave upside down for 27 hours and your body's like shutting down and you start losing yourself. Like your soul just slowly leaves your body. Like, yeah, bro, it's done. You don't feel like you exist anymore. Like you just slowly like fade away. Like, can you imagine? He become unresponsive, which means like, yeah, he's like done. His body's like, yeah, you're good, bro. You're done. You're done, man. You reach your limit.
portion of the pulley system
That
letting
freaking
up and John
sucks,
falling back in
man.
is to remind you how much strain his body went through. Even
Ah.
if, in response to yet a new issue, the fall, his adrenaline might have spiked. His heart was probably too weak from all the hyperarousal of dealing with being upside down to do anything. So when he fell back in, the heart might have had no way to keep pushing enough blood to keep him alive.
he reached his
And
limit.
at this point, all other factors were still at play. Low breathable air, darkness, panic, anxiety.
I forgot. I can't imagine trying to save John in just a pit full of darkness. It's literally just darkness. I assume they bought like flashlights, some like light source to see John's feet and his body, but
Energy deprivation,
Yeah.
delirium, etc. Sadly, it must have been some time after this fall that John's body finally shut down completely. Brandon Kowalis,
man.
one of the rescuers, had crawled in after John's father Dave to try and help, but reported back that John was still unresponsive. A paramedic was then sent in to confirm, and they pronounced John dead. His body simply couldn't take it anymore, and it was ruled that he died due to cardiac arrest. Now, in response to that tragic incident, the Nutty Putty cave was completely sealed off from the public, or anyone really. The entrance of the shaft
Oh, that's
where John
good.
got
That's
trapped
very
was blasted
good.
with dynamite to close it off, then
Holy
concrete
shit,
was
they had to
poured at
use
the main
dynamite
entrance
to
to
blow
prevent
up.
anyone going in at all.
can you imagine if they didn't seal this concrete? Like, let's say if they did not seal this cave with concrete or blow up the cave with dynamite. This generation will be so fucked that you have these TikTokers, these influencers, they will just go in the cave and be like, hey everybody, where's a phone? Alright, I don't have a phone. Let's just say that, oh, guys, look, it's Sean's dead body. Yeah, I got like 1 million views. Oh my god. Can you imagine how fucked up that is? Thank god she sealed that fucking cave with his body in. God damn, man.
And if you're wondering where John was buried, well, they actually sealed it off with his body still in there.
That is so chilling. Just that line itself, that is so chilling. Knowing that his body is down there is very horrifying. If I ever visit this memorial, like this Nutty Putty Cave memorial, and I see, knowing that his body's still down there with this, you know, this picture of his right here, like this, what is this called? Like a, I'm trying to think. It's like a grave picture?
What I say?
Memorial plaque in honor of John was also placed at the entrance as a marker of his final resting place. Maybe I should
Ignore
also
what I
add
said,
that
man.
in the last moments with Dave,
You
it
get
seemed
what I
that
mean.
John had realized his final moments had come, as he had apparently said to Dave, "I'm going to die right here. I'm not going to come out of here, am I?" There's probably no way to describe what that must have felt like to the both of them. And in sort of uplifting news, and to try to end on a positive note, his wife Emily gave birth to a baby boy on June 15th of 2009 and named him John.
Aww.
Thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate it. If you guys like the way I explained it, make sure to, if you want to, subscribe and leave a like on the video. I know there's a handful of videos already talking about this situation, but I try to go more into the scientific route. Let me know what you guys thought.
Oh, wait. Don't be slick. Wait, Tom. Don't be slick. I saw that. And I'm actually a human telling the story, not AI.
Let me know what you guys thought about that.
Hey, man. AI is taking over the world, man. We already have Google VO3. That thing is scary. Yeah, I mean, what a tragic story. His body's still down there, upside down, probably a skeleton. Yeah, I don't know what to say. That was a very sad incident. Like I said, the cave design, like, what the fuck is that, man? Like I said, like, the dead end of the bird canal where John was stuck, that's just so unlucky, man. Yeah, alright, well, that was the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what else I should react to. And yeah, it's good to be back. 2 years MIA. I've been very busy with life, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a bit.